I didn't expect anything unusual that afternoon. I was at the wildlife sanctuary for my regular volunteer shift, mostly cleaning enclosures and checking fences. The place is quiet on weekdays, the kind of quiet where you can hear birds arguing with each other and the wind moving through tall grass. Kong was with me as always. He's my dog, an oversized mixed breed with a blocky head and a calm, thoughtful way of moving. He's not trained for heroics. He just follows me everywhere. When I heard the sharp, panicked yelping from the far end of the grounds, I assumed it was a puppy spooked by a noise. I didn't realize yet how wrong that assumption was. The yelping didn't stop. It turned frantic, uneven, like the sound was running out of breath. I dropped the broom and jogged toward the sound, Kong instantly matching my pace. The noise was coming from the service path that runs behind the large cat enclosures. That path is usually empty, fenced on both sides, meant only for staff. As I rounded the bend, I saw a small puppy darting back and forth, slipping in the dirt. Beyond the secondary fence, just yards away, stood King, the adult male lion. He's called the Lion King by staff half jokingly because he's the dominant male and very aware of it. He was watching the puppy with intense focus. My first reaction was disbelief. Puppies aren't supposed to be there. The sanctuary doesn't allow personal pets anywhere near the big cats. The puppy looked no older than 10 weeks, tan and white, ribs visible when it twisted. It had somehow slipped through a maintenance gate that should have been locked. King's enclosure has 2 layers of fencing, but lions don't need physical contact to cause danger. His presence alone was enough. King wasn't roaring or pacing. He was still, tail flicking slowly, eyes locked on the puppy. That calmness scared me more than aggression would have. I froze for a second, trying to think without panicking. I called out to the puppy, softly at first, then louder. It turned toward me, confusion clear in its movements, but didn't come. Fear had scattered its instincts. I was painfully aware of where I stood between a frightened puppy and a lion that outweighed me by several hundred pounds. I didn't step closer yet. I didn't want to trigger anything. Kong stood slightly in front of me without me asking, his body stiff, ears forward. He wasn't growling. He was assessing. I remember thinking how strange it was that my dog seemed calmer than I felt. The puppy bolted toward the fence again, slipping and scrambling. King took 1 step forward, slow and deliberate. That was enough. My heart jumped into my throat. I shouted then, not at the lion, but at the puppy, clapping my hands. The noise startled both of them. The puppy hesitated. King paused, ears twitching. Kong moved forward without waiting for me. Not charging, just moving, placing himself between the puppy and the fence line. It wasn't something I'd trained him to do. It was instinct, plain and simple. Kong stood broadside, blocking the puppy's view of the lion. He looked enormous in that moment, legs planted, tail low but steady. The puppy ran straight into him and bounced off, then crouched under Kong's chest like it had found shelter by accident. Kong didn't react aggressively. He just adjusted his stance, lowering his head slightly, keeping his body between danger and something smaller. King reacted immediately. He lifted his head, eyes narrowing, attention shifting from the puppy to Kong. The tension in the air felt physical, like pressure on my ears. I expected Kong to bark or retreat. He did neither. He held still, breathing slow and controlled. King stepped closer to the inner fence, muscles rolling under his coat. The fence held, but the proximity was terrifying. I could see King's whiskers twitch. I was acutely aware of how thin the barrier felt in that moment, even though I knew it was reinforced steel. I started backing up slowly, calling Kong's name in a calm voice I didn't feel. "Kong, come on, easy, good boy." My hands were shaking, but I kept my tone level. Kong took one step back, then another, never turning his back on King. The puppy stayed glued to him, stumbling along, too scared to do anything else. King followed parallel on his side of the fence, not charging, not retreating, just matching pace. It was one of the longest walks of my life, those 20 or so steps toward the maintenance gate. Every movement felt like it could be the wrong one. I didn't blink. I didn't breathe deeply. I just kept talking, nonsense words strung together in a steady rhythm meant to keep everyone calm, including me. When we reached the gate, I fumbled with the latch. My fingers didn't want to cooperate. The puppy let out another sharp yelp when the latch clanged, and King responded with a low, rumbling sound from deep in his chest. Not a roar, something worse. A warning. Kong stiffened but didn't break position. I finally got the gate open and stepped through, motioning Kong backward. He guided the puppy through with a nudge of his shoulder, then followed, placing himself inside the safer corridor before turning his head away from King for the first time. I slammed the gate shut and locked it, leaning my weight against it for a second without realizing I was doing it. My legs felt weak. Kong immediately turned to the puppy, sniffing it carefully, checking for injuries the way dogs do. The puppy collapsed onto its side, chest heaving. I knelt down, my knees hitting the gravel hard, and ran my hands over it, feeling for blood or broken bone. It was filthy and terrified, but intact. Behind us, King paced once, then settled back down, interest fading now that the situation was over. That normalcy felt surreal. Other staff arrived within minutes, alerted by the noise and my frantic radio call that I barely remembered making. They took the puppy gently, wrapping it in a towel. Questions flew at me. How did it get there? Where did it come from? Was Kong okay? I answered automatically, my voice distant to my own ears. Kong sat beside me, pressed against my leg, finally panting hard now that the tension had broken. Someone brought him water, and he drank deeply, eyes still tracking movement out of habit. Once things calmed down, reality settled in. The puppy belonged to a contractor who had been working near the outer perimeter earlier that day. A gate hadn't been secured properly. Simple mistake, dangerous consequences. The puppy was taken to the on-site vet, and I went along, mostly because my hands wouldn't stop shaking, and no one told me not to. Kong followed, tail wagging faintly now, like he was trying to reassure me. The vet confirmed the puppy was dehydrated and stressed, but otherwise fine. Hearing that made my chest loosen for the first time. Later, after reports were written and procedures reviewed, I walked Kong back past King's enclosure. King lay in the shade, licking his paw, utterly uninterested in us now. I stopped and watched him for a moment. He wasn't evil, he wasn't a villain. He was a lion doing what lions do, observing, assessing, responding to movement. That distinction mattered to me. It grounded the whole experience. This wasn't a battle of good versus evil. It was a chain of instincts intersecting in a dangerous place. One mistake, one closed gate too late, could have ended very differently. Back at home that evening, Kong slept harder than I'd ever seen him sleep. He didn't even lift his head when I moved around the kitchen. I sat on the floor beside him and ran my hand over his back, feeling the steady rise and fall of his breathing. I kept replaying the moment he stepped forward without hesitation, not because he was brave in a storybook way, but because he trusted his read of the situation. He didn't panic, he didn't escalate, he simply placed himself where he was needed. People later called Kong a hero, and I understand why. But when I think back on that day, what stays with me isn't drama or triumph. It's how ordinary it felt once it was over. A gate left open, a puppy where it shouldn't have been, a dog doing what dogs have done alongside humans for thousands of years, protecting something smaller. Kong didn't save the puppy to be a hero. He did it because it made sense to him in that moment, and honestly, that makes it mean more, not less.